Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And it's a happy day today.
So here we go again. Look at this. We got another meteorite coming on in, caught on camera in Mexico. Yeah, it's been one after another after another.
Many meteors and very interesting.
I was noticing yesterday, just like it sounded, and I was wondering if it's meteors or if it's maybe military planes breaking the sound barrier. It sounded like sonic booms to me, but way, way distant. You know, where we are now, we're hundreds of miles away from any military bases. So, curious. I was just wondering if anybody out there has been like hearing sounds that sound like maybe a sonic boom or like maybe potentially a lot of meteors coming down and causing booms.
Yeah, it's just really curious how we kept hearing them yesterday, like over and over and over.
Yeah, it's like, what's that? What is that sound? And here we're looking at another view in Mexico, and that looks like a volcano in the background there, of another meteor fireball coming in. That type of sound is what I was hearing, like way in the distance. Almost like, if you were at war, in the wartime, and there's distant bombs going.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. It was.
That's what it feels like to me. So I got to wonder if there's a lot more stuff hitting us than perhaps we realize. So yeah, yet another one, guys. It's just been one after another. And here we see, out of RT, mysterious green fireball lights up Mexican skies. Also, it rains fire on the northern state. Now, this is what Cindy got like a month and a half, 2 months ago. She said there was going to be a lot of stuff incoming that was going to also be causing wildfires. And we have wildfires under control in South America now, too. We've had them, obviously, across the American West. And there are small wildfires as well in the eastern part of the U.S., and not just the U.S. We had wildfires in Spain and France and other areas, including Paraguay right now. Really severe ones going on there, Brazil as well. So, kind of all over. Of course, we saw last year massive ones in Australia. And so she was getting that some of these are going to be being caused by these fireballs coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, it's really curious how I know there's been a lot of talk about the DEW weapons. I don't really want to say the word, but do they intermingle that natural stuff with purposeful things,
Yeah. There again, like when we talk about things, and we've talked about this from so many different aspects, saying, okay, it's not all demons. It's not all angels. Doesn't mean that there aren't demons. It doesn't mean that there aren't angels. It doesn't mean that there aren't ETs or interdimensionals. I think it's kind of an all of the above. There's some natural. There's some not so natural. There's some manufactured. It's a combination of things that we're seeing going on, which is why we're seeing such, records. Everywhere we look, there's records. Everything is just records falling left and right. So there's some more videos. This one, you just kind of get a flash, from the side. And our boy there, I'm not saying it was, gotta love him. So you see here, too, causing fires. Interesting. Fire from the sky, guys. I mentioned that before, too. Asteroid 2020 TA flew past Earth at half a lunar distance. So when you start talking half a lunar distance, then you pay attention. And so we've had 72 objects so far within a lunar distance. If I remember right, I want to say last year we ended up a little bit over 100, like 101, and that was a lot. So we still have time to go. Right? We got most of October, November, and December. We probably will be somewhere in that same range again this year. Now there is, the tabloids are talking about, incoming ones coming by, but as we showed, The ones that they were showing, are millions of miles away. Now, a lunar distance is roughly like 249,000 or 240,000 miles. So that's a big difference than 3.8 million miles. And, this particular object was first observed at Atlas MLO in Mauna Loa on October 4th. So, again, not much warning, when you see something like that. And by the way, we have the Draconid meteor shower going on as well. So, we did see some the other night. We sat out last night. We didn't see anything. Last night was really kind of quiet. Those stars look absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful when you could see the whole band of the Milky Way right over your head. Love being way out in the middle of nowhere. It's my favorite place to be, is way out in the middle of nowhere. And you should be able to see it's estimated about 5 shooting stars should be visible each hour. And they're talking about the UK skies there. So think about this. On November 12th, 1833, there was a meteor shower so intense it was possible to see up to 100,000 crossing the sky every hour. Wow. Would that have not been just an incredible sight, perhaps a little freaky?
Yeah, it really would have been.
So you see this woodcut talking about the event. Can you imagine people looking up and just seeing 100,000 an hour shooting down? It would be stunning. I think a lot of people would, maybe lose their cookies. Yeah, pretty wild. And look at that. That looks pretty ominous.
It does. I mean, it's like one of those things you just look at it and you can feel the heaviness as you look at the film.
Yeah, so this is Hurricane Delta, which was a Category 4, approaching Cancun, and it has made landfall, and it's going to go back out. So it's gone over the Yucatan, over Cozumel, which I've been blessed to be able to get to once. It was a gorgeous island, and through Cancun, and it's going back out as a Category 2, expected to intensify up to a 3 again. And we'll have to watch because things have surprised us in recent years with that rapid intensification. But as we've been saying, if you're anywhere in eastern Texas all the way to the Panhandle, keep your eye out because it looks like another one's coming.
Yeah, just really be careful. Don't take any chances. Don't try to drive through that mud puddle because you might just drop in it. Just be safe.
Yeah, and recognizing that so much of Louisiana on the coast is just reclaimed from the Gulf. The water level is really low. Like, out in the desert, you got to dig hundreds of feet to find water. There, you dig a foot and you'll find water. So, and it's getting saturated. They're still recovering from from that last blow, a Category 4, and this may be a Category 4 too. And yet the models are showing pretty good consistency here. All of them, except for this one right here, is showing a pretty narrow band. So, again, right at the Texas-Louisiana border, apparently Louisiana is most likely the area that's going to get hit this time around again. And but keep your eyes open. Remember, the right side of the storm is usually the strongest winds. Although this one is supposed to not stall out, which is a blessing. But then if we do see it start to stall out, like if the weather patterns and if there's any sort of blocking effect that starts to develop, then I'm certainly going to be super suspicious about manipulation.
Yeah, because they've got it down to a fine art and a science, and they try to make it look natural, but at a certain point, it just it's wrong.
Well, as we've said, at the top, there's handlers that understand everything that's going on. Below that, though, I do think there's a lot of government officials that truly believe the narratives that we're given up to a certain degree. I think it's just, really at the upper echelons that they become totally aware that there are handlers above the ones that we see that are really controlling things. So that doesn't mean that, because we have this cold WAR going on between China and the U.S., doesn't mean that they're not really, manipulating each other's weather. I think that's a super possibility right now, tit for tat, trying to hit each other. We saw the floods in China. They're record-setting, completely record-setting, and same thing with the floods in India as well. China, has talked about their ability to create rain, to manipulate the weather openly, very, very openly. And so, it could be that case. And then we see this. So this is tipping the hat to Ricardo in Cancun. He rounded up all the street dogs he could find and brought them into his house before the hurricane hit. And look they're all getting along fine. Isn't that wonderful? Because they understand, somebody's taking me in and going to try to help me. And all these disasters that we've seen, think about those poor animals too. And then there are beautiful souls like Ricardo that's going to, say, hey, I don't care about a mess in my house. I just want to save these guys because they're, beautiful souls too. And in my point of view, God indwells each one of them as God indwells us.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's like this guy is a total saint because that can't be easy. I'm sure there's, dog messes and stuff, but he didn't care. He just brought them in because he knows their souls at the base level. They're all a piece of source.
And Zeke's been with me, I think, almost 4 or 5 years now. And he's a rescue too. And so when I rescued him, almost all the dogs in the rescue were pit bull mixes, and I chose him just because he seemed to be the nicest. Honestly, his soul seemed to be the most gentle, and that's been the case. So we see the heat records are going to be tumbling down as well. There's an exceptional heat wave going on in South America, and again, when we look at this area here, here's Paraguay, and this is where the fires are. And there's also fires over here in Brazil. So, this is going to exacerbate it. And what we have going on is basically extremes on both sides. Extreme heat, extreme cold. Everything is getting, just kind of more violent in general. And we have a deadly landslide. And this is over in Guatemala. Some areas are completely saturated, and if you're in a mountainous area, that also does get some earthquake activity. With saturated ground, that's not good. It's not safe, and so we see that happening there. And this is after Storm Alex. Look at these beautiful beaches that are littered by thousands of dead trees now. So heavy rains have caused flash floods in southeastern France and northwestern Italy, killing at least 7 people on both sides of the border. Storm Alex has destroyed dozens of houses and washed away roads. It's been an incredible record-setting year, and we have the world record water sprout outbreak over the Great Lakes. So that's another record falling. 232 water spouts confirmed, and you can see the map where they were confirmed. So, and again, this is because of the weather pattern and the way that the extremes between the opposing fronts are getting more extreme. Intenser cold, intenser warm. And of course, all they want to do is sell us that it's our fault because of carbon emissions, which, in my opinion, I think there's technology out there where we haven't needed oil and gas for a long time. We really could have switched over to alternatives. As we've seen, there's declassified patents on anti-gravity. It's all right there if we actually just look. Meanwhile, we have the 2020 Antarctic ozone hole, one of the largest and deepest in record years. It's just all about control. It's all about control and manipulation.
It is, and they're really good at it, and they know how to do it, and they have an agenda, and they're not going to hold back.
So this hole grew to 8.8 million square miles, over twice the size of the U.S., and that's above average for the last decade and spreading over much of the Antarctic continent. And Live Science had an article, too, talking about what happens if Antarctica, is totally uncovered in ice. Well, obviously, sea level is going to rise dramatically. There's the two sheets there. The western one is melting quicker because of volcanic activity, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion as well. That one, if it went, would not be good. But if the eastern one went, then we would have like Edgar Casey's saying that Europe would be just transformed in a twinkling of an eye, because that would be significant increase in in the sea levels. And yet this has happened time and time and time again. This is a normal oscillation, but then again, it's hard to say exactly time frames of normality when we have so much weather control and weather modification going on. And it's just the timings of all these extremes coming in. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And, I've been really getting pulled for some strange reason to explore Wyoming and Montana more. I don't know why. I know it's going to be super cold now, and Cindy's looking like, hell no in the winter. Definitely getting pulled to that area. Maybe before Yellowstone goes, but yeah. But no, I really don't feel Yellowstone's going to go. That's just my personal opinion. And there is the chance that the whole situation with Yellowstone, these super volcanoes don't always last forever as well. And so, but then again, new ones can develop. Yeah. And, anyway, getting back to this, we see Jackson Hole, Wyoming, 2019, coldest year on record. 2020 saw the earliest snowfall on record. So note that trend. And eventually we should be getting to a little bit more consistency with consistent cooling. And that's what we're looking for long term. And we see spring freeze shortens fall apple season for Indiana orchards, worst we've seen in decades. So usually you'd be prime time for Midwest apple picking, but the orchards around Indiana are running out of apples early because of a late spring freeze that obliterated much of the state's crop. It is a bummer, and there's a lot of those bummers going on right now when it comes to crops. But at the same time, we saw like Russia had record wheat production, and it's shifting. And we've talked about how he who controls North Africa is going to control a lot of the world's food supply. And there's definitely scrambling. I noticed that politically as well, and we should probably do more videos on that. Where the U.S. is trying to, create alliances. China is right in there. They've been in there for a long time. They've understood what's going on for a long time. Full moon glows blood red as it rises in California's inferno, and that certainly is blood red.
It is. I've never seen one that's quite that blood red.
Well, again, it's about the atmosphere and all the fires that are going on that's creating that. And how about this strange spiral? They say it was caused by perhaps extreme cold coming in, an extreme cold current hitting an extreme warm current, and almost creating a water hurricane there, a vortex. Vortexes are found everywhere in nature. We were watching Robert Sever last night, and he was talking about sacred geometry and everything, and we've shared with you guys, he's one of our favorites. Atlantean Gardens, Robert Sefer, he has a couple channels, just talking about how this is everywhere in nature, the spiral. And obviously Milky Way, the galaxies are spiral. We see hurricanes are vortexes, tornadoes are vortexes, and your chakras are vortexes drawing in energy. And so many people have closed off chakras, and it blocks them from drawing in energy, and we need to keep our energy flowing. As Cindy always says,
what?
Emotions.
Oh, about your emotions. Yeah. You absolutely. Emotions buried alive never die. You really have to have those buggers moving, and the best way is to process them through your chakras.
Exactly. And in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, what happens is these emotions that we can't process get buried into physical locations. So there's 12 primary meridians, and there's 8 extraordinary vessels in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture and QiGong. And off of these 12 primary meridians can develop what's called Lao channels, which are little dead-end streets where energy just ends up being deposited. And again, in traditional Chinese medicine, it pretty much all disease is dis-ease, which starts with unprocessed emotions. Unless you're hit by a car, unless you chop off your leg with a saw, or are exposed to toxins, things like that. Most of our dis-ease is caused by emotions that we can't process and different traumas. So I thought that was interesting to see this spiral here. And then we had a 6.0, a deep 6.0 off of around Fiji. And this is an area where we do see a lot of deep, strong quakes. And so this one was at a depth of 388 miles. Meanwhile, the earthquake swarm that we've seen in Southern California around the Salton Sea has died down. So we'll still keep an eye open on all these things. As always, guys, thank you so much for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. We can't do it without you. Thank you for your patience whenever there's any sort of sound issues. We have 3 different computers that we jump from. And anything we do, 3 different computers, 3 different microphones. And we have, changed programs innumerable times. And even have a VPN. And there's still always interference no matter what we do.
So we really appreciate your patience. We appreciate your support because we know they're trying to block us from getting certain information out. And we're just so grateful for you guys.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.